everybody. This is Bernie from Heavenly Central, and you're listening to the Central Podcast, the show that explores the art of scents and perfumes for people who love fragrances. And with me today is my man, Chris, also known as Fragrance Overload.
Yes.
How you doing, Chris?
Man, Bernie, you always know it's a pleasure anytime we come into the studio and to talk fragrances, to talk styles, to talk about what we love, what they love. It's always an amazing day, man.
Yes. And I am so happy to be here with you, my friend, because the topic today continues from what we talked about last week. And so, are you ready to dive into the scent trail, Chris?
Man, I am ready to dive in, and I'm sure our audience is ready as well to hit part 3 of our dupes
Already
series.
part 3.
Yes.
All right, so moving on this first segment, we are going to talk to dupe or not to dupe. That is the question. And so on today's podcast, we are tackling a topic, Chris, that keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's making waves everywhere on social media.
Yes.
Dupe fragrances. You know, Chris, that seems to be the talk of the town these days. And we know that dupes are gaining popularity, you know, with young people, with the younger generation. Everybody, they're everywhere on TikTok, Instagram. We see them everywhere. So there are some passionate discussions being had, and so I would like to unpack all those discussions that are taking place. And so, at the heart, Chris, of the debate, we have I think the person that started it was Francis Kurkdjian, and he said that fragrance duplication is a creative insult and a form of intellectual theft. Man, those are some heavy words.
Heavy words,
especially from somebody that has his reputation. Now, and he questioned why fragrance compositions don't have the same protections as other luxury goods like handbags, like watches, like shoes, you know. But the fragrance industry is different, as you already know. So where's the line between inspiration and imitation, Chris?
And you know, that's such a great question because I think oftentimes depending on who you ask, they'll give you a different answer.
Yeah.
Some people will say, nah, man, that's just imitating. And then other people say, no, it's inspiring this. You know, art inspires other art. You know, you'll hear that quote a lot. And man, it's a lot that we're going to unpack for today's show because there's been a lot of big individuals within FragComm that has a lot to say regarding this topic, that has a lot to say regarding not simply dupes, but people even came from the man himself, Francis Kurkdjian. And we're going to talk all about that.
Yes.
So we just can't wait, man.
Yeah, for sure. And so let's unpack it. So we know that luxury brands invest millions of dollars into, you know, research and development, and dupe fragrances, whether we like to believe it or not, they undercut that. And so that is their argument. And so dupes are, you know, becoming an issue for these big brands. And so yet people argue, you know, the people who are in favor of dupes, they argue that affordability fostered experimentation. So Chris, some people say, why spend $200 on one bottle when you can explore 3? I mean, that's a pretty good argument.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, and we saw that this week, there are influencers out there who resist dupes. I mean, we've seen some people that say, no, I don't do dupes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here for the artistry. I'm here for, you know, for the beauty of the bottles. I'm here for the beauty of the fragrances.
Yeah.
And then there are other influencers that we saw this, you know, just yesterday, I saw somebody say that, no, they're pro-dupes and that, you know, they want to democratize, you know, fragrances.
Exactly.
And so they say that they are leveling the playing field. What do you say about that, Chris? What do you say about that? Because there's a lot there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that really makes dupes so popular at this time, not just simply their price point, but I think people are getting to the point where they're just like, hey, I just want to smell good. Yeah. Or they're saying, hey, why are they charging an arm and a leg? It's as if people don't want to pay that much for the high quality anymore, which for me is where it gets a little bit iffy because as much as I want to smell good, I want to smell the best.
Yes.
And, you know, some people will make arguments, you know, to say, well, you know, some dupes are better than, you know, the actual niche itself. I digress. I don't agree with that. But, you know, that's a lot of what's been going on. And you'll have some, not just creators, but just general individuals within the community who would say that they do both. They do dupes and as well as niche, and, you know, to each his own. And one thing that for me sticks out is, you know, the back and forth.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's crazy, because like you've seen and I've seen and we've talked about, it is a heavy topic. It's a lot that people are talking about. It has to do not just with quality, it has to do with money. It has to do with people feeling as if they're being robbed or not. So it's a lot that goes in there, man.
Yeah, and it's a $1 billion business. I mean, you've seen these companies, they make a lot of money.
For sure.
And so just this week too, and I think it was 5 days ago, very famous perfumer, and he's like really on now. His name is Maison Crivelli. You may have heard of him. He is the creator of Oud Maracuja, Hibiscus Mahajad, awesome fragrances, man, which are awesome. You know, he came out swinging. In this interview that he had, saying that dupe houses are messing things up. He said, now I'm gonna quote him. He says, "We are being copied by cheap dupes, which smell, by the way, terrible. I feel sad for people copying us." And then he goes on further and says, and questions, why would brands create oud with passion fruit if it has already been done? Talking about his own fragrance, Oud Maracuja. Yeah. So he goes on to say that he would never do that. He tells the other brands, you know, to choose something else. And this comes from, you know, from a creator. And then, you know, we have Aromatix, which he's another influential member of FragComm, and he's, you know, he's in the game, and he's been doing dupes for a while. Yeah. He just came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he came out and said, and by the way, he just created, I think, 4 fragrances with French Avenue, which is a huge dupe house. He said about Maison Crivelli, he responded, he said, "There's been a lot of talking about dupes and inspired by, and even creators getting their channels shut down, which I think is complete blip." I'm not going to repeat the word, because everything in this world is inspired by. And then he does say, and he, you know, that he draws the line when they start copying bottles and stuff that's a little too much for him. So he has a limit, but he goes on to say that, you know, he's for the people. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty interesting. And then another big influential member of FragComm, Daniel René, which he has a big following on social media, he responded to Francis Kurkdjian. And he said, "When you stand on your high horse insulting brands that are absolutely changing the face of what the fragrance world is, that's where I take it personal." And so, you know, so these guys are pretty adamant about their stance. Absolutely. And they believe that, you know, that everybody should have access to fragrances. But we're talking about dupes in this case. Now, I do want to mention that, you know, these two gentlemen, they're all highly respected. Absolutely. I respect them. I'm friends with one of them. They do have deals with dupe houses. So, you know, so I would like to find out from them, you know, if that, you know, sways their opinion, or you know, or if that. I mean, I believe that, you know, it is what they believe, but I'm just curious. What do you think about that?
Well, one of the first things is, first off, I gotta be honest. I love Maison Crivelli fragrances. Yes. I recently just took a deep dive into the brand, and they have some incredible high quality fragrances, and I can understand where Thibaut Crivelli is coming from with what he's saying, because he didn't just say dupes, but he even said brands in general. To try other things, you know. And so I can get where he's coming at, because if there's already something like that, like what he has, like Oud Maracuja on the market, why replicate it? You know, why not just go ahead and create something else? And so there's that. But then I also see oftentimes creators, recently I saw a video, I think I shared it with you, where people are just, because there's dupes of Oud Maracuja. I think one of the most popular one is by French Avenue, called Azure Blue or something along the lines. And, they're like, hey, don't spend your money on this, pointing to Oud Maracuja, and then choosing, to say, get this instead. And I'm sitting here and I'm asking myself, like, man, I think there comes a time where you can promote a dupe without trying to bash the niche, and vice versa. And so that's very important for us to, kind of talk about in the community as well. I don't know, when we watch and we spoke about, Neeb, who is Aromatix, and also Daniel Renee with what they mentioned, I'm somebody who, if that's what you believe and that's what you feel, I respect that. 1,000%.
Absolutely.
And, I think that's what's so important about this topic. So oftentimes, people just disrespect one another. Because I wear niche or because I wear dupes, people feel like, oh, then, that person thinks they're better than us, or that person looks down on us. But in reality, if that's what you believe and that's what you want to wear, that's perfectly fine. And to people trying to level the playing field, per se, I get it. Because these niche fragrances smell amazing. And if you unfortunately cannot afford it, I can understand the want to have something similar to it. But just call a spade a spade. It's a dupe of what it is, I will always, if I can get the niche fragrance, I always encourage people to do that.
But going back to, to influential members of FragComm, I want to talk about Mr. Cologne 76 because I think he really, the way he explained it was very, very, to me, it was like, wow, man, it was very respectful. But he let his stance be known.
And you know what's crazy about that is he got attacked for sharing his thoughts. That's what's crazy. But go ahead, man. Like, that's crazy.
So he said, this is what he said. I'm going to quote him. He said, much respect to people who review clone fragrances, but that is not my lane. Respectfully, you will never see clone reviews here. And then he goes on to say, he is here for the artistry, the craftsmanship, and the originality. He's about honoring the creators who put soul into scents. And that, to me, my friend, is just beautifully, just beautiful words, though, just the way he has written this, because it makes sense. If I'm a painter, and I paint the Mona Lisa. And we know that Mona Lisa is in France. And, that painting, that thing that they said has been the painting that's most been duped ever in the history of the world. And so, but there's only one Mona Lisa.
One original.
And then the rest are copies. And so, so how would you feel? How would you feel?
If I am a perfumer, this is why I agree with most of the perfumers. The truth is, if I'm a perfumer, I know the time I put in to create the fragrance that I have set up. I know how much effort, I know how much, sleepless nights go into it. So for me, I would have to agree. I would hate to have something duped that I create. And I think everybody feels that way. No matter where your stance is, dupe or niche, you're going to feel some type of way if you go ahead, you create something, and then now you see me create something extremely similar to it, less quality to a degree, and then here I am, and I'm passing it as my own, and I'm going out and I'm making money off of it. Where now other people are even saying that what I created is better than the actual, creation itself, the original. Like, that to me is kind of a smack to the face. And I think that's where a lot of the perfumers are coming from with their frustration over this whole duping situation.
And one of the things we talked about was legality. We know that we cannot copyright or patent, scents because you just can't, because they're so subjective. And so the law doesn't help you. It doesn't help the perfumers, doesn't help the creators of the art. And so it's a very, very touchy subject. It's a very, very sensitive subject. And I think that, I always feel, bad for the perfumers because, they are the ones that put, like Mr. Cologne said, sold into these scents. And so, but it's.
You know what's crazy about it, Bernie? I just thought of this. And I don't know, I want you to share your thoughts on this. we're talking a lot about duping, and duping is just another way of saying copying something.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sure we've all been in situations when we went to a perfumery, where we've been to the mall, and we smell a niche fragrance that is very similar to another niche fragrance.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know we typically call, duping houses, but what are your thoughts on some of that kind of niche house duping or creating very similar, fragrance DNAs to other niche fragrances?
Yeah. Well, that to me is a great question, because we know that there's a lot of that happens in the industry. Yeah. I mean, we know that there are niche houses that, call themselves niche houses, which are creating, very similar copies or dupes.
Creating dupes.
Right? Creating dupes of very popular DNAs.
Yeah.
And so, maybe they change a note, maybe they add something, but it's still in that same DNA.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, dupe, let's call it for what it is.
Exactly.
They are duping. They're duping. So, but but I think, when people, I think people need just to make up their mind and say, what is my approach to fragrances? Yeah. Because I think, especially us niche collectors, people who collect niche fragrances, why do I collect? And that's the question, that we all need to ask. Why do I collect the fragrances that I do? And so when you're able to answer that, then, you'll have answers for the rest of the, for everyone.
Absolutely. And, in speaking about understanding why we collect, it's also, what do fragrances mean to us?
Yeah.
Right. And so in knowing what they mean to you, the impact that they have, whether it's nostalgic, whether it's just something that you choose in order for you to go ahead and express yourself, whatever it means to you is what's most important. And on everybody's journey is very different. And, we had mentioned, a few influencers. And, one of the things we want to say about these individuals is, sometimes when people think that, people support dupes, that means they can't afford the original. Those individuals can definitely support the original.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they definitely can.
Yeah.
And I think their perspective on where they were coming from is they also understand the wide variety of audiences and of people who watch their content.
Yeah.
And so in sharing, saying, hey, I'm going to create, content for both dupes, niche, and designer, as a way to talk to the lay person. Because I think I was reading somewhere that says the normal person only owns like 1 or 2 fragrances.
Yeah.
And I scratched my head and I'm just like, man, I don't know how I would survive. Yeah. But I think their perspective is also very valuable for what they were bringing up.
Yeah.
But then also when you look at the perfumer's perspective and the brands, it's also very valid as well.
Yeah.
So the rift there is it's there and it's valid points. Sometimes you scratch your head, you're just like, man, I don't know which side to choose. I'm always on the side of smelling my best. So that's my side.
Yeah, same here. And I think that, I think there's definitely a rift in the community. And here at the Central Podcast, we respect every side.
Absolutely.
Whether you want to be on team niche or team both or team, whatever. It doesn't matter. We respect everyone. And we want you to know that, this is your second home and we can talk about, we need to have these tough conversations because these are the conversations that are happening online. And I think that all of us, need to come together.
Yeah.
And, and just talk it out as a family.
For sure. Respectfully,
Yeah.
That's the most important part. It's respectfully. Because for me, as a content creator, the majority of my content is going to be niche fragrances.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the majority of my collection is niche fragrance.
Yeah.
I have an attachment per se to them. When I receive a dupe fragrance of a fragrance I already have, I typically give that away.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't need to own 2 of the same thing.
Right.
And so that's also something that goes into it, man. It's a very tough topic. And it's a topic that I feel like a lot of people misinterpret. Because I know for sure, and from what we've seen, when you speak against dupes, there is like an army behind dupe fragrances.
Waiting for
behind these dupe fragrances who's pushing, who's like, hey, you know what? We're coming in, we support dupes, and that's what we believe in. And so with someone like Mr. Cologne 76, who had mentioned that he had to make several videos after saying, guys, it's all out of respect. It's out of my love for fragrances. So, you know, all of that rift, man, I watch it, I'm just like, man, you know, they're coming for this man's head.
Yeah.
And, you know, just simply because he says he doesn't review dupes, you know? So that's a big factor, man. That respect, you know, that mutual respect is needed. Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, you know, we're here to listen to you guys. And if you have any questions, you know, please submit them because we want to answer them. We want to, we want to start a conversation.
Yeah.
So any questions that you may have, you know, submit them. You know, you can send them on Instagram, you can send them on YouTube. And we are here to talk about things. And we may pick your question, you know, pick one of their questions and you know, to talk about it so we can get more information.
Absolutely.
And talk about the issues at hand. And so, but I also wanted to mention, you know, there was another fragrance influencer. His name is Joe Sent Me, and I think he has one of the biggest collections
I've ever seen in my life.
And you know, and I love his videos because he's always bringing fragrances. I'm like, man, he gets a lot of fragrances.
Yeah.
And he said, Joe Sent Me said, it's a touchy subject for many, but I believe there's a place for both.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion, and that's another good opinion.
Yeah.
And then there's another guy. His name is Jeremy Sense79, and he probably follows you. You've probably seen his work. He says that dupes have their place. I'm personally looking for quality over quantity. But as a reviewer, I try to stay open to the idea of both.
Yeah.
Not everyone can afford overpriced niche. Some brands are straight ripping people off. Dupes are doing better in some instances.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
I think that's important. And his argument, or not even argument, his comment is real because, again, we all have a wide variety of individuals who watch our content, who support us, and who can probably only afford $50 only.
Yeah.
You know? Because not everybody can go to the mall, drop $400 or $500 on a brand new bottle of niche fragrances.
Of course.
And I think with what he said, it helps you, you know, to understand that he understands his audience and what he wants to bring to the forefront is great quality content that both people who love dupe and appreciate dupe and who may not be able to afford, or not just afford, who may not be willing to spend that type of money on fragrances, they could also get something as well. And, you know, funny story, you know, I know somebody when they see my collection, they're like, man, you know, you have so many fragrances. He says, I can't imagine, you know, how much money goes into it. And it's true because it's an investment.
Yes.
Us as collectors, we are investing into our collection. And when we're investing into these things, we want the very best. But some people may not be willing to make that type of investment.
Yeah.
For them, they just want to be able to spray something on and go. And so I think in that instant, hey, if the dupe is what they really prefer, you know, go ahead and go on with it.
Yeah, all power to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. I think at least for me, you know, for me, I've been collecting for years. And I've gotten to the point where, you know, Chris, I receive dupes every single day, and I smell a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I open the boxes, I smell them. You know, check them out because as reviewers, you know, we got to do our due diligence.
Absolutely.
And we got to check everything out. So whether it's a dupe, whether it's a niche fragrance. But at the end of the day, as a collector, as a fan of the artistry, as a fan of the juice inside these, you know, the compositions, you know, that to me is the most important. Yeah. And if I cannot, you know, if I know that, you know, what I'm smelling is not a composition that I know has been ripped by another one, I'm like, I don't know. And like you mentioned, if I already have it in my collection, chances are that I'm probably going to give, you know, the bottle away or give it to someone. I mean, again, not that it smells bad, but it's just not in my interest. Like I'm not interested in, you know, adding another dupe to my collection. Yeah. And now that doesn't make me a niche snob. No. It just makes me somebody that, you know, wants to have the best. I want to have the best in my collection.
Absolutely. And you know, because you're spending your money on it.
Yes.
So you want the best, you know? And so that's a very important point, man. It's important. And that's something I hope the community learns. when it comes to this whole process, right? Some people hate certain brands.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, I would never purchase from this brand, or, oh, I only purchase from this brand. You know, there's some people who have a collection, you know, of every fragrance that a brand puts out. That's their preference. You know, that's what they like. You know, sometimes I smell certain fragrances and they're niche and I'm like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
That's my preference.
That's a great point. Great point.
So all of that goes into it. And I think one of the things that's important for us to also highlight is the fact that sometimes some of these dupes that you receive, you don't even know that they're dupes.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be the first to let you know there's a whole lot of fragrances out there that I've never smelled in my life. And sometimes a brand sends it over. I'm just like, oh, man, this smells great. And I'm talking about it, creating my content. And then somebody reach out to me and says, hey, bro, that's a dupe. And you're like, oh, man, I didn't even know, you know? And so all of these different things, sometimes it may not be a dupe to somebody because they never even knew what the original was to begin with.
Yeah.
So all of that plays a role into it, man.
But you did bring up a good point. You know, just because the fragrance is niche, it doesn't mean it's going to smell good. And so sometimes you gotta be careful because I mean I smell niche fragrances and I'm like there is no way I'm adding that to the collection. So you know we gotta be careful sometimes. And I think that everyone who's going into niche perfumery, listen guys, you need a mentor. You know, find a fragrance buddy that you can talk to because niche perfumery it's a rabbit hole.
It is,
and it is so big. There's just so many fragrances out there. We can't collect everything.
No.
But when you have a fragrance buddy or you go,
unless you're Joe sent me, by the way.
Unless you're Joe sent me, he's probably laughing. But anyways, so you know, so moving on because you know we are moving on. It's time for Chris, your favorite part of the program. It's today's Central Spotlight.
Yes.
And today we have something very special in this bag, and I am going to. Oh, by the way, you can see this comes from La Jetée.
Yes.
Our friends at La Jetée. You want to tell them something about La Jetée?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for the niche hotspot to get the best high quality fragrances, and when I say the best, I mean the best. And when you go in there, it's not about selling fragrances. It's about the experience. You need to check out La Jetée. Whether you want to go ahead and check them out here at the Orlando store that they have, or even the one in Tennessee if you're there, or just online, trust me, they are incredible and they always have the latest and the best fragrances. So La Jetée, we appreciate you, and this one here is something special. Look at these beautiful bags, look at that beautiful fragrance.
Yeah, look at this beautiful fragrance. This comes from BDK Parfums, and brother, BDK has beautiful packaging, man. I just love their packaging. And this is their latest one. This is IMPADIA. And I've heard a lot of good stuff about this one. And guess what? La Jetée had it. They had it in stock. And so when I saw it, I said, you know, I need to have that one because, you know,
collection immediately.
This is the fragrance. I call it the fragrance of the season. But no, and it has the notes here. But check that presentation. Check that bottle out. Isn't that beautiful?
That beautiful gradient bottle.
Yeah. And so I'm about to go ahead and spray this because that's what we're here for. Everybody wants to know what it smells like. So I'm going to just pull it out of here. And I'm going to give you the box, Chris.
Absolutely.
And you can read the notes there. You can read the notes. But I'm going to spray it on. Let's see. Let me grab the. And I'm going to spray this.
You know what's crazy is my French is a little bit rusty. So check this out.
Yeah.
Don't come for me in the comments. The first thing that they do have bergamot from Italy. They also have mandarin from Italy as well. They have absolute rose from Turkey, so Turkish rose is in there. They also have orange blossom, akigala wood. Ooh, my God. They have vanilla, and they also have some santal in here as well.
Brother, check the BDK atomizers are awesome because look at this. Check this out. Look at the distribution of this.
Ooh.
I mean, it just here. Take a,
this. Oh my goodness.
Doesn't that smell beautiful?
This just smells so fantastic, Bernie. This smells fantastic. So if you know you like these notes, and you enjoy them, you need to get your nose on IMPADIA by BDK Parfums. And words cannot and will not do justice to how amazing this smells, Bernie.
Bro, this
is phenomenal.
That is beautiful. That is
the
beautiful.
combination of, you know, the bright citruses, but then immediately, Bernie, I'm getting that beautiful rose coming in.
Yes.
And then once that rose comes in, you also have, you know, the orange blossom that softens it up, that make it real nice.
The mandarins.
Oh my gosh.
It's just beautiful. And then you have that Bulgarian rose that just gives it feels like you're in a rose field, but then you add all those fruits. Man, and then that Turkish rose is just beautiful. And then the other thing I was going to mention about this fragrance, this was created by a perfumer from Spain. His name is Jordi Fernández, and he is a senior perfumer at Givaudan. And he's from Catalonia, Spain. And he's created some big fragrances. He's created Blue Talisman by Ex Nihilo. He's also created fragrances for Carolina Herrera. And he's been the creator of a lot of great fragrances. So this guy right here, you know, he deserves credit for this beauty. And I love IMPADIA. And this is a fragrance that I would definitely wear with a nice suit, with a tux. If I'm getting married, man, you know, I've been leaning towards florals lately.
Of course.
And I just love this because it's not only a floral, but it's like a bright floral.
Yeah.
It has that, you know, that.
And, you know, this does lean a little bit feminine, but yo, fellas, there is no gender in fragrances.
No.
Just grab you something that smells good, and IMPADIA does just that. It does just that, and it's phenomenal, man. And, you know, one of the things that's so incredible about this fragrance is this thing is projecting.
It projects. Yeah, it projects.
It's projecting.
It's taking over this room for sure.
It's projecting, and it's amazing. Get your nose on IMPADIA if you have not yet. The hype is real. You heard it here first. It's real.
Yes. So to summarize, you know, the main takeaways of this discussion, we have talked about today that, you know, that dupe debate isn't going away anytime soon.
Not at all.
And we don't know when it's going to end. But what we do know is that, listen, guys, we can come together as a community. And so I want to say thank you to our viewership, all the people that are watching today who are, you know, just supporting us from all over the country, all over the world. We just want to say thank you for joining us at the Central Podcast, because without you, you know, this wouldn't be a show. No. We want you guys here. This is our conversation. This is our conversation.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you for tuning in. And so make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. If you're on Instagram, make sure to hit a lot of likes. And, you know, if you see those videos pop up, make sure to comment. We are looking at every single comment, every single like. We are watching everything.
And we're responding.
Yes.
We want to let you know we are actively responding. Your comment will not go unnoticed at all.
Yes. And I also wanted to mention to them, don't miss the next episode, because you are going to learn a lot. It is going to be great. So make sure to tune in. And like Chris says, keep it locked in.
Keep it locked in. This is the place to be.
The Central Podcast. Until next time, Bernie here with Heavenly Central and
the one and only Fragrance Overload. And you know, we're here to stay, and we're not going nowhere. And if you stay on this journey, we're all going to smell amazing.
Ambassador for a very famous house. And it is a house that a lot of fragrance enthusiasts